What's going on, guys? Come on in, come on in. Welcome to your motivation show. I'm your motivation guy, your friend, Keith Allen. So pumped up today. You know, here at Pro Guides, we have the passion, a lot of passion to train and inspire people to make it into competitive and professional gaming. Let me tell you this, man, you can have all the skills in the world, but if you don't have the mindset, you're not gonna make it into the upper echelon level where the pros are. And that's just the truth, guys. So today I'm excited because I'm going to pick the brain of an esports pro to show you guys the mentality and the mindset that you need to have in order to reach the level that many of you guys dream of. You know, you're grinding and that's great, but if you stick around, I'm gonna show you guys how to make it to the top. Are you guys ready today? Let's get this going. Come on in, guys. Come on in. We got an amazing show today. I'm so excited to see everybody today in the chat. Come on, show me some love. ProGuides.com. Show me some love on YouTube. It is going down. I see some of you guys. Daz Just, what's up? BL Jen, how you doing? Caleb, what's going on? We got Bunch of Crunch. I see you. Toasted Fishy. What it do? What it do? Angel, how are you? Come on in. Come on in. Sean Farrell, what's up? I'm glad you can join us today. So pumped up. Hey guys, at the end of the show, I'm gonna be answering your questions along with this pro that I cannot wait to introduce today. We're both gonna be answering your questions and it's gonna go down. I'm really excited about that. So make sure you stick around the entire time. Tag some friends, let people know what we're doing right now because this is gonna be a dynamic show. You're gonna hear someone's story that is gonna change your life. I promise, I promise. So I see you guys in the chat. Man, there's a lot of activity going on. Bunch of Crunch Armies in the house. I see it. Man, it's going so fast. I'm like, it's like the Matrix. Miss Salone, how you doing? Mr. Familiar, what's going on? BL, Jinx, I see you guys. I see you. I'm so glad you joined us today. All right, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get this going. Come on in, family. Come on in. Bunch of Crunch Army, where you at? I see you guys. You know, I am so excited today because so many of you guys that follow us here on Pro Guides, I mean, you guys obviously aspire to be a pro, right? A pro in whatever game that you guys are pursuing. But what we don't understand is that, listen, you can have all the skills in the world. You can have all the mechanics down. You can grind and practice for hours every single day. But if you lack the mentality, if you lack the mindset, I'm sorry, you're not gonna go very far. You know, a lot of these pros, man, I'm so inspired when I talk to them, when I pick their brain and just kind of listen, you know, to their journey and what they overcame. And today, I'm gonna do this publicly. I'm gonna do this in front of you guys. And so together, we're gonna pick the brain of a pro that has had to, you know, overcome some obstacles to get where he's at today. And he's persevered and he's doing a great job. And I can't even wait to see where he's gonna go next. And so be inspired today, guys. Be inspired to grind. Be inspired to never give up. You know, be inspired to even, you know, pursue the thing that you want to pursue, even when your family is not even supportive of your dream. I get it. I've been there. But I'm telling you, you're going to be happy where you end up if you can do this with all your heart. Are you guys ready? All right, here we go. We're about to bring on the screen right now on your motivation show. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only lolSamppA. Man, I'm so excited for you to be on the motivation show today. First of all, I just want to say thank you for coming on. I know you're very busy. So, okay, so you're a coach here at Pro Guides, and it's such an honor to have you on board, you know, representing Pro Guides and, you know, reaching, you know, all the people that you're reaching right now, just giving the knowledge.
It's amazing,
you know? Yeah. And so it's definitely an honor. And obviously you're a pro Fortnite player, you know, and so I'm really excited today, man, just to kind of hear your story a little bit and just kind of, you know, pick your brain for our audience, because there's a lot of people that aspire to be a professional, you know, esports player.
Definitely, yeah.
You know, so can you tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you're from and the game you play?
Well, I'm from Michigan. It's a little mitten at the north side of the United States. I was born and raised here. For the most part, my entire life, I've been playing video games since the beginning. Like when I was young, a lot of people don't know this far back, but I used to play the Nintendo 64, stuff like that, like really old stuff, Paper Mario. I don't know. I think it's like 90s stuff, all 90s stuff. So that's what I started with, and I moved over to. What's that? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I used to get absolutely destroyed by. I think it's also one of the things that kind of helped me become a competitive person too. Is I had 6 older brothers and sisters, and they were always better than me at everything. So I always had to do something to get better, right? And so I got that competitiveness from when I was young, and then going into the teen years and like older age, got a computer, got an Xbox, and I just kept playing all the time. And I always wanted to be the best.
I love it. So man, so how did that like kind of train your mentality as a pro player to, you know, compete against, you know, your brothers and sisters like that? Wait, is it brothers and sisters?
Brothers and sisters, yeah. I mean, my sisters didn't play as much, but I mean, like, they were still better than me at some stuff. Like, they had to be, right? You know?
So how did that, like, help your mentality? Because obviously when you're, you know, you're the youngest like that, I mean, there's a lot of downs, you know?
Yeah,
you have
absolutely,
to compete a lot. So how did that help you?
I think it's just one of those things where it kind of helped me going forward for other challenges, because you kind of remind yourself, because like in a lot of different things in life that you try to get through, a lot of it starts with just doubt or fear, uncertainty. And I mean, it's like, sounds corny to say it this way, but it started with that with them, like just not being sure I could beat them, or like, you know, like feeling frustrated because I'd be like, I've tried all day and I couldn't do anything. But I would notice over time that I got better at things, like slowly and certainly. And I mean, and sometimes they would quit the game and I would get better than them after it, but I'd still be better, right? And then there was other games in the future that I played with them that I also absolutely just destroyed them in, because I was already way miles ahead of them, like Call of Duty when I was on Xbox. So basically that mentality trained me to just never give up. Like, I mean, there's always more that you can learn, always. Like, always, forever. So
Yeah.
I just
That's
brought
so
this
cool.
learning mentality into it and just kind of accepting the challenge, for sure.
Yeah. So growing up, you know, having, you know, the older brothers, older sisters, and, you know, obviously as the youngest sibling, I mean, you know, you got a lot to prove, you know, you get
lot to prove, yeah.
you get underestimated, I'm sure, all the
Yeah.
time, right? And so
Picked on all the time, yeah.
Man, so how did that translate, you know, being underestimated, you know, feeling like you got something to prove, you know, how did that really translate into your professional career?
I think the biggest thing, and I know it's not specifically what you asked, but like the biggest thing out of that whole entire process was just the love for what I was doing. Like entire love for video games across the board. Like I just love video games. It's fun to be within it. I think that definitely drove my my focus, especially when it came to later in life, like the last like 5 years or so when I continued to work on trying to become a pro in multiple games, both League and in Fortnite. It just was absolute love for it. And I guess the biggest thing was growing up as well, like getting into the gaming scene and trying to, I would tell my brothers and sisters like, hey, I'm trying to go pro, right? I'm trying to do this just full time. And the big thing is being a professional player is unheard of on the bigger adult scale realm. Like they don't know what that is. What is a professional player of anything? Well, except for like, you know, sports, but for video games, it's not heard of. When it comes to translating, like I would hear them say the same things that I remember hearing them say before, not necessarily like the exact same things, but they would say stuff like, oh, like, I don't think it's a good idea, right? You can't do that. That's not been done before. It's not very safe, right? And that also drove me into trying to be like, well, I can do it. I know I can. So.
You know, there's a lot of people that kind of are in similar situations right now that are listening, that are watching right now, and they want to pursue this passion that they have into the pro scene, but they don't have the support of their family. They don't have the support, you know, of their parents or maybe of their siblings or, you know, grandparents or whoever. And, you know, and many of them have gotten discouraged. You know, how did you stay encouraged to keep going no matter what?
Well, when I was 15 to 18, that was like the biggest time where I was doing not as much schoolwork as video games. I don't suggest that, by the way. That's not a good idea, for sure. Definitely not. But I clashed with my parents a lot on it. And that time I was just a little rebellious. So as far as that goes, I think that was just a time for me to learn how to communicate with my parents. I think that's the biggest uphill battle, I think, coming into that is communicating with your parents, because your parents care about you. Your family cares about you. It's not that they are trying to stop you from your goals or anything like that, but they want to make sure that when they have to retire or anything else like that, that you're set to go, right? So it's not believing you. It's rather that they want your safety first and foremost. But sorry, what was the question again? Can we like I kind of
what you're saying is awesome. Because I was saying, you know, how did you persevere, you know, through the lack of support? And one thing you said that really caught my attention right now was you said communication, and that's something that we try to teach our people a lot. You know, teach, you know, our audience a lot is communication. Can you be a little more specific about what you mean by communication with your parents?
So the big thing was, of course, I wasn't doing great at school, right? And the biggest thing was talking to them. Like, at some point, there was a click in my mind where I was like, you know, I kept playing games a lot. I started noticing I was doing really well. And so at some point, it clicked to myself that I was like, oh, you know, I actually am not that bad. I could do something with this, right? And through the years, we struggled with our communication. But towards the end, I started to realize what they really want to hear from me is a plan and a focus and a goal. They really want to hear like a laid up, like if you're going to do this, make sure that you have everything in order for you, because there's no reason to, you're not going to do, what's it called? If you just put in mediocre, what's it called? Like focus and drive, it's not going to work out. You need to have a big goal, like a big, not like a huge goal, but rather just a path. Especially something like Pro Guides. Pro Guides will definitely help you with the path. Like it'll help you create a path to get better, create a consistent schedule to get better, faster, you know, so.
Yeah, I mean, what I just heard you say right now is something so important for everyone that is watching. It's like, there's a difference between having a dream and then having something that is realistic, and
That's a good way to put it,
a plan to get there. And you know, a lot of young people and older people, you know, we have things that we want to do, but the reason why we lack support is because people just think we're dreaming. they don't think we're really taking it serious. So how did you show?
Very true. Yeah.
How did you show your parents that you were really taking it serious? Like, what did you say? What did you do? What did it look like?
Yeah. Well, first things first, I told them about how much I love the game and how much I really wanted to do it. And I mean, I think they were still a little bit hesitant.
Yeah.
For sure. Because they're still coming out of that phase of just trying to take care of me. But even though they're hesitant, I just put in the time. So, for example, I would literally be at my computer for 10 hours at a time sometimes. Because that was all I was doing at the time. I hadn't even gone to school at the time. I was just at home. So what I did was I put all my effort forth, and I would create a schedule. I'd wake up at a certain time every day. I would get on. I would maybe warm up in certain ways. So at the time I was playing League, but I would get on. I would practice my CSing. I would go into a bot game and literally just practice my CSing, and then I'd go into a what's it called? Into solo queue all day, and then until scrims, and I'd play scrims and go to bed, or I'd VOD review and I go to bed. So it was a process every day.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing was my dad wasn't home a lot. He was at work, and my mom was literally in the room right next to me. And so the biggest thing about that whole transformation of trying to become a professional player was that I showed my mom, and I couldn't show my dad as much because my dad wasn't there all the time, but I showed my mom, and she really saw like the growth and the focus and the person who I was becoming. Like coming out of high school, I don't think I was as focused on life as I would like to have been, but
Sure, yeah.
Coming out of that professional like athlete growth, that actually taught me a lot about life.
So
Just the whole process of learning how to become better at everything, literally everything, becoming a process of like, okay, if you put in the time, if you put in the effort, you're going to see results. As long as you like actually create a system for it where you see results from the end.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people in your position at the time, it's like, okay, you just graduated high school, you have this desire to make it, you know, as a professional. A lot of people, unfortunately, especially like, you know, the next, you know, the generation, you know, before us, or, you know, with our family, with our parents, you know, they sometimes look at gaming like a pipe dream. It's like, what, video games? Are you serious? Like, go to college, you know, do something else. You know, so obviously during this time in your life, when you were showing your family like how serious you were, there had to be a lot of pressure. And a lot of people get this pressure, and now when they're gaming, now they lose the passion and love, and it's all about them getting the results, and then they get anxious, they start tilting. So how did you persevere through the pressure of like showing your family, like, you know, this is something that I'm really good at, that this is something that's really gonna work for me? You know, how did you overcome all the emotions that you were dealing with when you got into tournaments and you competed?
That's actually a very interesting question, because I think the one thing that's really important to remember on your path to anything in life is that a lot of people think that that's just a straight path all the way to your goal. Like there's no side turns, there's no like loop-de-loops, there's no like, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of going around, there's a lot of dead ends where you go to the end of it and you're like, okay, well, gotta back up, right? So it's not as simple as saying like, I just kept trying, but it was more like I went through all the different mistakes I can make. Like for example, like a year or two after that, I still wasn't, and this might also be a little bit of a, what's it called? Off the path for some people. They maybe, segue, right? For some people, maybe it's not the same, but I actually ended up moving out. And I ended up living in Minnesota. And for the next 2 years, I would work and stream and also play professionally. And that was kind of like my step out. And so to answer your question, the thing that's important to remember, no matter what you're doing, whether or not it's anxiety from a tournament, anxiety from your family, the biggest thing is always put 100%, no matter what you're doing, and learn from it is the biggest thing above all else, because you can't become great in any way without making failures, like of any kind, like across the board in anything. You just need to make mistakes. So as far as the anxiety goes, it's one of those things where some people learn how to deal with it, some people don't, and it's not that they can't, it's just they haven't yet, right? So it's more about, don't be afraid to fail and look back at your failures as learning opportunities, rather than being like, oh, you know, I messed up and now I have to quit. You don't have to quit. No, you can go as far as you want. It's all about your love.
Man. So what are some of the failures and you know, mistakes that you know it was like, maybe you could share some of those, you know, mistakes or failures on your journey to where you're at today that, man, it was probably really hard to overcome. I mean, I'm talking about some haymakers, right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
Like how
Oh,
am
yeah.
I gonna get up?
Oh,
Can you
yeah.
share a couple of those maybe?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, the first things first is I had a job while I was doing my streaming and semi-amateur League of Legends. I was actually paid while playing League of Legends for a short amount of time before I quit and played Fortnite. But during that time, I had to balance work life, home life, because it was my first time living on my own. And honestly, like, still can't cook very well. Well, I can cook well, but I want to cook more things. Anyway, but having to take care of myself, right? So all by my own. And the biggest thing is every single challenge would come differently. So there was like, for example, I was living in Minnesota at the time. So it would snow really hard all the time in the winter. And a lot of things went wrong. I got my car towed multiple times because I just put it in the wrong place. It was my fault. I figured it out the next few years. But they basically plow the roads, and then whatever car's in the way, they get rid of. So I was in the way, and then that happened multiple times, and I was tight on money. I was living off a stream. I was living off of work part time, and then doing my dream, and it was hard. So when certain things went wrong, like for example, I had to tow my car, pay money to get it out, or for example, I didn't have very good sleep the night before because I messed something up. Like I had to clean up my dishes, blah blah blah, this and that. A lot of life stuff came into gaming as well. So it was hard to have a life balance and a gaming balance. And one day, I had just awful sleep, like maybe 4 hours of sleep. Something happened, I don't remember. And I went to work, and I worked all day, like I think a 10-hour shift. It was a long day. And I came home and I scrimmed, and my mind was not there at all. It was one of the worst days that I ever had playing video games ever. Like seriously, I was a Diamond 1 player, master, and I played like I was silver. And it was one of the worst days ever. And then like I think about a week or two later, I ended up quitting the team just out of like, I can't do this right now, right? So it was definitely a thing where I was like, man, is this where I belong, right? So I got tested all the time. Like that's what helped me continue is the love for the game and the love for the process and just not wanting to quit. Like people had said I couldn't do it. I really wanted to prove them wrong. And I came from being young and tested by my family, all that, because I never really put that together, but that's actually something interesting to think about. Like my competitiveness really grew when I was younger and it feeds into me still today.
Oh, I see that, man. I see that. It was almost like you were groomed, man, from a very young age.
Yeah, I guess so. I was ready.
In the household that you came up in. I mean, you were used to, proving the doubters wrong. You were used to being counted out, and underestimated, and not giving up. And I feel like at an early age, you developed this, in a sense, this stubbornness, to not
100%.
quit. So that is so awesome, man. I'm sure you're inspiring so many people. Okay, so tell us about.
I hope so. Yeah.
Oh, you are. Tell us about the moment, or the time where you started playing professionally. I know you said you got into League, and then you transitioned into Fortnite. Can you tell us about that process?
Yeah. So I joined a team in League, and then I played with them for a while.
How did you join? Like, what did that look like?
Oh, so basically, it was just through a process of trying to try out for teams. People, they would post on like, I don't remember anymore. At this point, it's been a long time. But at Reddit, Twitter, I think if you knew the right person, you might get invited. They would say, oh, I'm trying for this team. Like, oh man, nice, cool. Can I try it too? And so there was a little bit of a scene. So entering the scene was the first step. And then once you enter the scene, you have to like just try to play with whoever you can, whether or not it's a gold team, silver team. Obviously, I think the one thing that's very important if you're going to be going pro is to make sure that you don't overly focus on team aspect before you work on yourself. But that aside, after that, I did end up quitting the team. And there was a time where I was wondering whether or not I should continue, and I was working as a coach as for League of Legends. And then I remember seeing Drake play with Ninja. I don't know if like anybody remembers that. That was one of the craziest things ever. I watched them play, and I was like, that looks so fun, because I was just stuck in toxic solo queue. And I know some of you League of Legends players out there, as soon as I said it, you're like, yep. So, toxic solo queue, yep. So I was tired of it. I was like, man, it's so toxic. I just want to do something fun. And it was actually very detrimental for me to switch to Fortnite, because when I went from League to Fortnite, I literally lost all my viewers, because all League players don't really care about Fortnite, and Fortnite doesn't really care about League for the most part back then. I think it's a little bit more interchangeable now. More people play a lot of other games, and it's not really as like divided. But
what was that like, losing your viewers when you transitioned?
Restarting? Oh, it was hard, man. It was hard. I think the biggest thing is again and again, the love for it, and just stubbornness. I think there was a time where I was like, no, I gotta make this. I want to do this. Like, this is it. Like,
I love the confidence
anything else.
You have it. Yeah. I love the confidence that you have in yourself. that you know what?
Yeah.
A lot of people are so afraid of starting over. They're afraid of starting over, you know, all types of things that they have.
It was so hard.
I love it.
Yeah.
But you believe that, you know what, if I did it before, I could do it again.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, it might feel like there's an end sometimes where you're stuck in a situation. There's never an end. There's always a tomorrow, right? No matter what happens, you will wake up tomorrow and the day after and the day after and the day after, right? So whether or not you feel like you're getting crushed today, there's still more day. There's so much more. There's so much more. So if one thing doesn't work, there's always other things. Always.
And that was your mindset as you transitioned into Fortnite.
Yeah. Because you gotta keep going, you know? I think having a love for whatever you're doing is really important.
I love that.
And obviously you can't always love everything you do, but I think just incorporating something in your life where it's like, this is really, it feeds you, right?
Before we get into the transition of Fortnite, I like what you just said. You said you can't love everything you do. During this process of you getting to where you are today, what was that thing that you didn't necessarily love to do, but you had to? Because, you know, a lot of people, you know, it's easy to say, I want to be there. You know, I want to be, you know, this next pro player. I want to be this next streamer. I want to be all these things like, you know, like what you're doing today, you know, even as a streamer. You know, we all want to get there, but we don't understand that sometimes you have to do things that you don't like to do to make it there. So what's that one thing, if we can be honest, that you don't necessarily like doing it, but you have to? Yeah.
100%. I mean, for me, in the league portion was definitely working. I had to work to keep my house and be, you know, or my apartment, not my house. So that was one thing. As far as like actually trying to excel my skills and that kind of stuff, Kovacs, creative. I mean, this month alone, I'm practicing for the FNCS, and I've been playing creative and Kovacs a lot, and it's mind-numbing, but I gotta get it done. You know, I just gotta get into it, and I mean that's not entirely specific to what you're saying, but that's a big thing where it's like I just don't want to. Sometimes I don't want to do that, and I mean, putting that first is important sometimes. Yeah.
Of course, we all just want to get to that level, and we all just want to show up, you know, in the FNCS or whatever you're tournament or whatever you're playing in.
League.
We just want to be great. We want to be great.
Yeah.
But we have to put the grind in. We got to put the practice in.
That's
we
right.
got to have, you know, I'm a big Kobe Bryant fan for life. We have to have the Mamba mentality. If you guys don't know about that, look it up. Look it up. The Mamba mentality.
It's really good. Yeah.
So, okay, so tell us about your transition into Fortnite. Okay, so you saw Drake and Ninja play. You were inspired.
Yep.
You said, I need to get out of this toxicity that I was in, and what you were doing with League. And so you wanted a fresh start. You lost your viewers. And so tell us about this time in your life.
Well, the very first thing I did was I just played. I literally just played the game for 10 hours a day. I was terrible. I was one of the worst players you've ever seen. There's actually clips. The first time I ever played the game, shadows are on, everything is like dark, and I'm just in this hallway, and my sensitivity is way too high. I'm flicking everywhere, like that. Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. I drew around him, like when I was shooting at him. I swear. So.
How did you overcome that? Because I know a lot of people can't overcome that time when you start playing Fortnite, especially, and you're just frustrated. It doesn't feel like you're getting better. It doesn't feel like you're getting better. Like, how did you overcome this time?
I think the big thing was obviously the things I learned from League came into putting in the time in League, transition to other stuff, in real life as well as other games. So the process of learning and getting better in that game carried over to everything else. And I just kind of realized that you can break down almost anything into biteable chunks and then just take it in as you can. So every time you play, you just want to make a little bit of a difference. You don't have to wake up tomorrow and be mongrel. That's just not possible.
For sure.
Not.
Yeah.
You need to start breaking it down and eat. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, no, you took singles and doubles instead of trying to hit the home run every time.
Right, exactly. I took everything I could. Every single day, if there was even a minor increase, I was happy. I would mess around with my settings. For example, I told you like I was flicking everywhere. I realized that maybe I had the wrong sensitivity because I came from League, which is high sense. You gotta click everywhere. And then going to Fortnite, which is all FPS. So that's the other thing too is I have played other FPS games in the past, but for the most part, for the last before Fortnite, 4 or 5 years, just League. So switching over to an FPS is actually another interesting challenge too.
Wow. So what was it like to get better? All right, like what, when did you start? When did you start? Beginning to notice, like, wow, I'm actually starting to get good at this. Like, what did that feel like? What did it look like? Tell us about that.
So I think I started like midway season 3 or something like that. I think towards the midway of season 4, I was dropping tilted and dropping 20 bombs. So it was just the one biggest thing was the time I put in. There wasn't codebacks back then. There wasn't creative back then. I just played. I would drop in. I would have a drop I would go to. I'd play it. I'd fight, and then I would try to fight everybody I could. That was the biggest thing. Was like I wasn't afraid of losing. Even while I was streaming, there were people. I had Twitch my name and everything. People would come in. They'd be like, "Oh man, you just got trash, man." I'm like, "All right, whatever. See me next week." And then next week I'd beat them. So it's like as long as I focused on what I was doing, everything else came to me. It wasn't as that's the biggest thing. I think people get too focused on like, oh, what's this person doing? Oh, I'm gonna compare myself to that person. You can't. You only compare yourself to yourself, and that way when you wake up tomorrow, you say, this is what I did better than I did yesterday, and that's what made me better across a whole year. If you do it every day, just one thing, wake up a minute earlier or go for a run, like that stuff adds up quick over a year, quick, a month even.
lolSamppA, if you guys are just joining us, I'm inspired right now. Like, I'm inspired right now. I mean, this guy,
Thank you,
he's a coach here at Pro Guides. I mean, he's, a pro Fortnite player, streamer. I mean, this guy is amazing. One of the things that you just said right now is something that everybody who is listening, you have to apply this to your life right now, or you're not going to get to the place where you want to be. Stop comparing yourself to everybody else. The only one that you should actually be comparing yourself to is yourself. That is awesome advice.
Yeah.
Like, you compare yourself to you, and that way, you're in your zone, and you're just constantly getting better, and then you don't get fluctuated, you don't get discouraged by what everybody else is doing around you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing. So tell us where you are right now. Like, okay, so your first tournament, can you kind of talk about the process of starting to really get into the competitive scene and, what it looked like?
It was fun, man. That was one of the best versions of the games. And the Fortnite's still fun. But that was one of the most amazing things ever. So I learned about there being groups of people who would do scrims because I was interested in it. I remember Secret Skirmish or Summer Skirmish, like the first Fortnite event came up and it was huge. And I literally, I don't know why, but I didn't put enough work into finding out what it was and realizing I could have possibly qualified. I played it for fun. And I ended up actually even there might be some people who remember this. There was a clip on Reddit that got gigantic, got like 10,000 upvotes, where I 1v4'd during that showdown. And during it, I had no idea that they were going to be competing for summer showdown. So I played it for fun. I thought it was a pub, I just played it for fun, and I found out later, I was like, oh, I could have really done something. I could have done that. That was doable, right? So, and then the next one, I was like, okay, this time I'll be prepared. And the next one, I think I started looking up so a really long time ago. Maybe some of you guys know. I don't think many people know. There's a Discord called Step One, and they started doing scrims, and it was so basic. If you saw what you saw in those games compared to today now, wow, man, wow. It was literally 4 people end game, and they were all in different boxes and corners. It looked whack, but it was so fun, man. So getting into it, I started finding Discords. Once I started finding Discords, I started finding their schedules, seeing if they ran public scrims, and then eventually, I think maybe a month or 2 down the road, they started running more things, and I ran a public scrims from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock, and then I'd play the ladder till 11, and then I would VOD review for 2 hours, and then I would do in real life stuff for a while, and then go to bed and do it again tomorrow, literally for a week, because we wanted to prove ourselves. It was me and my duo at the time. It was duos. We wanted to prove ourselves so bad, and he was on the same page with me. I was like, yeah, let's do this every year. Let's grind. And so we went from opens, because we had just found it, we were just pub stompers. We were just general pub stompers. We got very good at fighting people in pubs. And CMG, I forgot about that. 2v2 CMGs, remember the Fortnite Fridays? I played those as well, and I made something in that. So there's a lot of different things that were kind of pushing me okay, you're not bad, right? You're doing okay. At least you're better than everyone else right now. Before all the young Zoomers come in, man, they're so quick. But so getting into different scenes and joining their tournaments, whatever I could do. Everything. I just looked everywhere. Twitter, looked up Fortnite tournaments,
I love the hunger. I love the hunger that you have, man. And, you know, and that really, really, you know, just pushed you and catapulted you to, you know, where you are
Absolutely.
today. So share with us a little bit about some of the successes that you've had, you know, as a professional Fortnite player. I know you were in League before, and I know that you were, you know, kind of getting into some earnings. I mean, can you kind of tell us about that a little bit?
Sure. So for League, I joined a team, and then I played with them for I think about 5 months, and every month they would pay me. It was amateur, so it was simple stuff. But we played actually like on a league, like actual league. We would be streamed, and I was a support player. And one of the funny things was I was a playmaker. So I played Thresh, I played Alistar, and a couple other tanky like playmakers. And that was like my thing. Like I loved to be on the spotlight. I would make big roams, all that kind of stuff. So that's like where it first started for me in League. That was like the first touch of like, oh wow, like look at that's awesome. Like look at how like, there's a replay highlights, awesome. Like it felt good. It was cool. You know Captain Flowers? If you do like that's where he started. That league was where he started. It was actually insane because I remember seeing him. He was just in his room, like he didn't have a lot. Like he had a mattress, and I don't think he just had like a cover sheet, and like he just had a white tank top, and he was casting from his room, and it was no AC, it was hot. Like he's also another great story to look at too. But
For sure.
And then getting into Fortnite, we started playing the FNCS. I don't remember. No, I think World Cup was like the first big thing. There was also the Gauntlets before that. Regardless, there was a bunch of tournaments coming up, and it was public, and I'd known that they were coming, and I was also running these ladders and stuff. And so the first few tournaments we played, I think we were really nervous, like super, super, super nervous, and a lot of shakiness and a lot of like, oh my God, he's in my box, and I would die and then get frustrated. But it was a process. The biggest thing is that when that stuff came out, the biggest game changer was replays. Everybody had a replay of all the games. And so people started to analyze. And that's also because I was a coach before in League too. So coming into it, I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like there's also now more opportunities to coach, but also learn. So I hope that answers your question. I kind of,
Yeah. No, I wanted to hear, just a little bit about the earnings and all of that. So you started to earn, obviously some money.
A little bit of money. Yeah.
That's dope. Great.
Yeah, so I went to every single tournament I possibly could. They worked fast with the tournaments back then, I think, and they're still pretty fast now. But I think because of how the world is right now, they're going a little bit slower. Hopefully, that picks back up. But it just kept coming, and I kept looking and be like, okay, well, there's this player who does this. There's this player who does that, and I want to play a little bit better and learn from them. And it was just a process of like every single day, the end goal was to get as good as possible. It wasn't necessarily how much money we made, per se. Like obviously the money's nice. But when you get into stuff like this, if you are only in it for just the money, it will eat you alive when you don't make it. Like it's riding highs and lows. Because then you make the money, like, oh man, this is awesome. And then when you don't make money every other time, it just defeats you. So it's more about like, okay, guys, we didn't bring it all today, but there's still more days, and we can put some work into this and get better. So it was just a process of getting better. I think that was. Above all else, like I think it was really cool to finally get earnings. I think World Cup was really where everything changed for everybody, almost.
Definitely.
I don't remember 15,000th place or something like that would get money. They used to have a lot of cash prizes back then.
Yeah, my goodness. So, okay, before we start, we're gonna answer some questions from our family in the chat. And before we answer your guys' questions, can you just leave us with 3 tips, as a pro player, 3 tips that you think are probably, just value tips, in order to make it from being a bot or, make it from just, the lowest level possible to where you are today. Just 3 tips for our people who are watching. Yeah.
First things first, focus on yourself. Focus on growth. That's the biggest thing. You will find growth if you look for it. If you look for excuses, like if you continue to like make up things to make yourself feel better about the situation, there's not as much growth. So for sure, try to be honest with yourself in a loving way too. You don't want to be too hard on yourself, right? That's dangerous. It can be very difficult to deal with self like what's it called, motivation, like pushing that hard. So you want to be careful. Take care of yourself. But so that's number 1. Definitely, it's kind of 2 in 1. Sort of don't make excuses, but also look for the growth. I guess that could be 2. Yeah. So we'll say that's 2. Look for the growth, and then don't make excuses for sure. 3 Third one, I think it's as a tip, I would say definitely learn to love the game. Like, there's a process, and some people just don't get focused. Like, they start looking at the numbers, they start looking at like the end result. I think big thing is just enjoy yourself. Like, it's a video game. It's made to be fun. So enjoy it for sure. It's made to be fun.
Yeah, definitely. Focus on yourself. Focus on the growth. You know, don't make excuses. And man, keep the love. Keep the love of the game.
It's true.
And I've seen this love, drive you to where you are today. So definitely excited, man. All right, we're about to answer some questions from you guys, in the chat. But before we do, can you just kind of share how we can follow you, where we can see you, kind of share your socials, where you are, what you're doing?
Yeah. So my name's lolSamppA, LOLSAM, 2 P's and an A. And then you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, Twitch. Those are my main ones. And also, obviously, Pro Guides. I have a class on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Saturday class is 8 p.m. I'm not sure if we're doing that this week or not, or next week. I think it is this week. But either way, Sunday and Monday are on for sure. Sunday's at 12 p.m. Eastern, and Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern. And obviously, I'm a coach as well, so you can always contact me that way too, for Fortnite.
Man, this guy's amazing. Like, you guys need to follow him, man. Check out his classes. I mean, he has so much. Thank you so much. So much, man. It's my honor, man. You have so much knowledge, just obviously in game, but obviously as the motivation guy, I love to focus on mentality, because I just know, like, you can have all the skills in the world, right? But if you have the wrong mentality, man, if you're tilting every game, if you're, not enjoying the growth and like you said, just focusing on how much money you're making or comparing yourself to other people, like, you're not going to make it to the top. So I'm so, blessed to see what you're doing. It's very, very inspiring, man. And yeah, thanks again, man, for joining us. This was so much fun. We're going to take a beat real quick to see the questions we have, and then we're going to have some fun.
Sounds good.
Cool. All right, Pro Guys family, bunch of Crunch Army, it's about that time to answer your questions. So excited to get into this. So come on now, let them out, let it rip. And yours truly, and lolSamppA, the one and only, we're gonna answer some of these questions. Here we go. We got Ali. Not gonna even try to pronounce the last name. I'm a good player, but if I play in a tournament, I get nervous. Now, lolSamppA, like, how could you, help this person out?
Yeah, for sure. First tournament experiences are always gonna be nervous every time. So get through it, learn from it for sure, and take it as growth, because you got to be nervous sometimes. And I think that the more you put yourself in that stressful situation, the more you will reach and grow to that level to be able to finally be like, all right, well, this isn't that bad, So just do it more, do it often, and get better.
I love that. lolSamppA, was there a time where you ever got nervous?
Oh yeah, in the tournament? I still get nervous, man. It's one of those things where nerves are part of the game too. I should say that. So they feed into each other. There's good nerves and there's bad nerves, and you kind of want to turn the bad nerves into good nerves. Bad nerves are nerves that bring you down, versus like, oh man, like, oh, I'm not gonna play well, right? Versus good nerves where you look forward and you go like, you know what, this is scary, but I'm ready, So try to switch that mindset a little bit and push and learn.
That's awesome. That's something that we love to say. Listen, you're not losing, you are learning, and I love that, man. Turning the bad nerves into good nerves. Yeah, guys, definitely take that advice. All right, we got Fresh. Okay, I'm not gonna answer that question. There was a question. I'm like, skip.
Yeah.
Okay, so Thunder has a question for you. What was the biggest disappointment in your career, and how did you overcome that?
Well, as a fierce competitor, I'm always disappointed with underperforming in some senses. So, like, I could go through a lot of them. But I think for that, I guess it just kind of comes to your goals. So, hitting disappointment. Let me think of a good way to respond to this. So, I would say there's been a lot of different disappointing things. I'm sure you heard some of them that we were just talking about. But it was hard sometimes. Sometimes you hit rock bottom. But the one thing I think comes back to like the whole like changing your mindset, right? where when you hit rock bottom, the only place you can go is up, right?
That's it.
There's no lower. So
Yeah.
when you mess up and you're on the ground, like that's an opportunity to get up, I think.
I love that. I love that. And I do love that, you know, it's all about the journey. It's all about the journey. And just from all the, you know, the biggest disappointments that I've been in my life, like every single time I have not given up and I've gotten back up, it's made me stronger, you know. Has that happened to you too, lolSamppA?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I talked about how I quit my league team when I was first playing with them. I played so poorly. I wasn't on the same page as them. I looked at that, and even though they were paying me money, right, to be able to play with them and work with them, I thought to myself, you know what, like I don't belong here right now. I need to go into my own place and grow on my own pace rather than trying to work with them and grow with them, because I wasn't on the same page. I would just mess things up that weren't supposed to be messed up in my role. I was playing sport at the time. So once I quit the team and grew, like obviously that was a disappointment and a letdown for sure. But I remembered that, and what I did was I took that as a learning experience, as I said before, remembering the learning experience, and said to myself that next time I have an opportunity to join a team, I'm going to make sure that I put in the work beforehand so that once we get in together, we're on the ground running. So learning experience, that's really all I can say.
Yeah. So we got Alberto88. He wants to know this, like, how do you stay so positive about everything?
That's just life, dude. You gotta, I've always just, there's only so much to life.
Yeah.
Might as well smile, you know, like you just gotta appreciate it. I think, or surround yourself with the right people when you can. Obviously there's people in your life who you can't get rid of, and you gotta love unconditionally, and maybe they might be good or bad regardless, but that love will definitely help you like enjoy life in certain ways. Like I don't know if you can just think of one of your favorite times and think about what's really different about this time versus that time. And obviously there's an atmosphere and a mood, but realistically in some situations you could just be happier just by just enjoying the moment a little more, you know.
That's it.
I guess if that makes sense. Yeah,
I love that. I love all the things that you just said right there. Surrounding yourself by the right people, and you know, really enjoying the moment. I really like that. So Silo asked this question, and I know this question relates to so many people that are watching. You know, what do you do when you don't see progression? I mean, I get this on my Insta all the time. You're a motivation guy. But I get this on my Insta all the time where I'm getting contacted by so many different people and they're on the verge of quitting because they're not seeing progression. What is your advice to them?
Well, I think the biggest thing is there's this quote where if you do the same thing over and over and expect different results each time, that's the literal definition of insanity. So try not to continue to do the same things. You got to switch it up. So if you're not seeing results, what are you not doing? Like, for example, if you're playing Fortnite, you're playing arena all day, or you're doing this and that, but are you playing enough creative? Are you doing enough aim training, right? So look at what other people are doing and see, like, that's working for him. Why am I not doing that? And it always comes down to that, because, you know, the one thing that's really, really important to remember, and I think that everyone should take away from this, and it was my favorite quote from Michael Jordan, and someone asked him, like, hey, so are you afraid of any other players on the basketball court? And he goes, no. And they say, why? And they said, why, right? And he says, the reason why I'm not afraid of them is because they put their shorts on just the way I do, right? Same idea. People get better the same way. We're humans, right? So we all learn the same way. Try to see what everyone else has as a motivator and learn from them.
Ooh, I love that. Maxed Out asked this question: what made you want to go pro?
I just love games. I just love games so much. That's it.
The love.
And competing. Competing is a lot of fun.
So Golden Cloud asked this question, and obviously, like, these questions, I get asked these questions on the daily, but I'm glad you're on the show as a pro, you know, from your experience and, you know, battling it out, the thing that you do. Golden asked this question. He said, could you become good without a PC and limited ping?
You're talking about specifically for Fortnite? Definitely. Absolutely. There's a console FNCS. All those players are on the same level as you. They're all at 60 or 60 frames. Like, there's a space for you to play. Now, there's obviously some controversy about whether or not console is as competitive as PC, all that stuff. But that aside, like, you can still definitely play. If you want to talk about ping, there are players who, obviously they have god computers, right? But there are players who are on 80 ping versus 0, who are placing. I don't know. You should look up Jelty, if whoever the person was that asked the question. Jelty, Jelty. He plays 80 ping consistently and places top 10 in solo events all the time. So it's harder. It's way harder, but it's doable. Absolutely. Sky's the limit. You know.
I love that, man. And I love that. I love what you just said, because it just makes us not make any more excuses, you know, and just blame it on all these other factors instead of just taking responsibility to just control what we can control. And we're seeing people be successful, you know, with a lot of obstacles that they're surrounded by. So that's really, really cool. Somebody wants to know, I think this is Assassin Creed 43. How do I stop getting tilted when I die?
I think tilt comes from your expectations. So when you get into a situation and you expect a certain result and you don't meet it, you get frustrated, you get angry, you get upset, right? And there's also a little bit of egotisticalness to it, to be honest, right? There's a little bit of like, oh man, I can't believe I lost to this guy. Like I hear that all the time. Like, man, this guy is so bad, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
But every player, even if they're the worst, can have a good game, a good fight, a good day. And even good players have bad moments. So
that's it.
Be honest with yourself. You're a human, right? You make mistakes. That's okay. Accept it, learn from it, move on. But otherwise, I would say definitely try to step back and show respect to your opponent. Your opponent won the fight. You gotta respect it. The game doesn't lie. That's what I always say. The game doesn't lie.
The game does not lie.
It lags sometimes, but it doesn't lie. If he hit the shot, he hit the shot.
Yeah, and I really agree with that. And you know, as far as mentality, when you're dealing with game rage and tilting and all that stuff, you know, you really have to start to examine really examine why am I so emotional? Why do I, you know, get so psyched out, you know, mentally? And I think it really just goes back to, you know, understanding like why you're doing this in the first place. I love what lolSamppA kept saying repeatedly during this time, that it was his love for the game that drove him to where he is today. You have to get back to basics, guy. Why are you playing the game that you're playing, whether that be League or Valorant or Smash or Fortnite? Like, why you started playing in the first place? Because it was really fun. It was really fun. You connected with it. You could relate to it. And so we got to get back to that. Start having fun again. Start having fun, and it is definitely life-changing, for sure, for sure. lolSamppA, thanks again, man, for this opportunity, joining us on your motivation show. It has been amazing, man. Your story is really inspiring.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, man.
Cool, man. We got to have you back again.
I whenever you want, let me know. All
right, cool. I'll be hitting you up soon. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. Hey, once again, every single Friday, 12 o'clock PST. You know, we're doing this on our ProGuides.com and on the ProGuides app, and now we're doing this on YouTube. So spread the word, because we're dealing with mentality each and every week. Next week is going to be another incredible show. So we'll see you next week, man. And bunch of crunch, Army. You better keep eating that bunch of crunch, and let's get this going.